Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the second day of the second International Congress on Health and Climate Change. My name is Fatma Nuravar Çalışkan. I am a lecturer at İzmir Kavram Vocational School in Foreign Trade Department. I will be the moderator for this session. As you know, the theme of our Congress this year is climate change, mitigation, adaptation, resilience, and sectoral developments. In this context, today we have 4 different studies and 4 different presentations. The first one is enhancing occupational health and safety legal framework regarding increased ambient temperatures, nanotechnologies, and design for safety in buildings, Macedonian case. You have 15 minutes. If you are ready, you can start to present.
Günaydın ve teşekkür. So our joint work with my colleague Inci Derebe is regarding enhancing occupational framework for 3 particular topics in occupational health and safety legal framework. Thus, these topics, occupational health and safety in Macedonia, are regulated by the correspondent law, as well as bylaws and strategic documents. But though the transposition is denoted, assessed as moderate, unfortunately, the implementation is not satisfactory, in particularly when it comes to preventive measures. In addition, having in prospect the country-specific climate condition and increasing of the temperature, there is a need to regulate that area in terms of OHS, as well as to regulate the penetration of nanotechnologies and their effects on the health, as well as the novelties in construction sectors, both in terms of materials and the manner of construction. One of the disadvantages currently in our legislation is also the manner of reporting in terms of work-related injuries and fatalities, which should be significantly improved, in particular in terms of the describing the circumstances of the accident that happened at a certain workplace. Thus, having in prospect the aforementioned, the 3 particular topics or area that will be covered with this work are focused on climate condition, in particular limitation of the maximal ambient temperature at working places, both indoor and outdoor, the effects of nanotechnologies and nanoparticles, nanomaterials, as well as the challenges of the construction sector in terms of safe design. Some information about the vulnerability and the readiness of the country in terms of climate change is not quite satisfactory, and in addition, a large portion of the workforce is related with agriculture and construction, which are outdoor workers. Also, several new industrial facilities, mostly foreign direct investments in the country, use nanotechnologies in their processes, while the health effects on workers are not yet systematically monitored and analyzed. And concerning the construction sector, wider adoption of new materials and strict standards regarding energy efficiency contributes to raise the importance of monitoring of air pollutants and more strict limitation in terms of indoor air quality, as well as safe design to prevent, in particular, mechanical injuries and even fatalities due to mechanical injuries on the construction sites, and later during the occupational phase of the buildings. The applied methodology is actually content analysis and comparison of the correspondent EU legislation and other good practices, as well as the national legislation. In terms of climate change consequences, in particular the influence of the increased average temperatures, usually it is related with the higher risk of accident. According to the European Union Confederation, it is up to 15% increased risk of injuries. And unfortunately, in Macedonia, we have a constant increasing of the average temperature, and even the number of nights above 20%, the so-called tropical nights. But although the correspondent EU directive is not yet adopted concerning the limitation of the maximum temperatures at workplace, several countries has their own legislation, as Belgium, Latvia, Montenegro, and Slovenia. Montenegro, even though is not an EU member country, has a good legislation, and it is a good example for Macedonia also concerning the similar geographic and climate conditions. Till now, the National Institute for Public Health has a solid base for legislation improvement in terms of several publications and recommendation for limitation of the average temperature of maximum temperature on working places based on the humidex index, which encompass both ambient temperature and air humidity values. But one of the main preconditions I would like to point out once again, in order to prepare a solid and legislation with good quality, is to improve the reporting in terms of work-related accident and include more information, in this case about the ambient temperature as a circumstance of the certain accident. In terms of nanotechnology, unfortunately, there is a significant gap even globally when it comes to nanotechnology progress and the research related with the occupational health and safety. In 2013, European Commission prepared and adopted guidance referring to nanotechnology, but it is not at any level transposed or taken in consideration in our national legislation. So that it remains a significant and important challenge, because if we look at the national rulebook on chemical substances workers' exposures, which is very similar as a topic to nanoparticles effect and nanomaterials, it was adopted 12 years ago and doesn't foresee the risk from this new and emerging technology. In addition, the Helsinki Committee point out the importance of further harmonization with the EU chemical agent exposure legislation. And of course, it is necessary to have more profound research on the assessment of nanomaterials and nanotechnology health risk, in particular at national level, to foresee all potential risk for the exposure from nanomaterials. When it comes to safe design and construction sector enhancement legislation related to occupational health and safety, it should be noted that safe design is already internationally recognized as a feasible accident, both during construction and later during the occupational phase of the building. As I said before, the rapid growth of construction imposed the necessity to both safe design implementation stipulation in the national legislation, as well as the requirements for indoor air quality. Moreover, it should be mentioned that Macedonia has not ratified yet the Safety and Health in Construction Convention from 1988, which defined a lot of issues regarding construction standards, safety of scaffolds, usage of construction materials, and other issues mostly related with construction sites. Also, a glazing quality, actually the usage of safety glazing is not regulated, which is a significant risk. And it should be regulated in educational, commercial, and business buildings by transposition and implementation of the so-called Regulation 14 on minimal glazing requirements in terms of mechanical feature of the glazing in particular that will prevent injuries. In addition, there shouldn't be any delay in transposition of the Indoor Air Quality Directive once it is adopted. It is very important issue since the strict requirements in terms of energy efficiency of building leads toward also extreme air tightness of the building envelope, and thus worsen quality of indoor air. Also, improving of heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems design and increased monitoring during the installation process is required and is related with the indoor air quality requirements. At the end, I would like to conclude that the suggested requirements for enhanced national OHS legislation resulted in improved condition and in working places, reducing of work-related injuries and fatalities, as well lower incidence of professional illnesses. But as an overall contribution, it will increase economic growth and income at a national level. And it is important to mention that the process of enhancing this legislation in the targeted areas should be integrated, inclusive, and with involvement of all relevant stakeholders as professionals in this field, National Institute for Public Health, State Labor Inspectorates, the representatives of the unions, academia, etc. Thank you for your attention. I think I was exactly in the allowed time. So is there any questions or?
Thank you for your presentation. Do we have any question for this study? Okay, thank you again. We may start to listen to the next presentation of environmental fuzzy risk assessment from phthalates in menstrual pads. If you are ready, you can start to present. You have 15 minutes again.
Thanks a lot. Just a minute. Let me find the presentation.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank for my staff and for my colleagues from Macedonia and Serbia. And I also would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to make this presentation. We work together with Johnson Bukovets, Anna Lazarevs, and Nikolai Jokit and Mikhail Kokchubovsky in this study. Our goal the goal of our study is to make a risk classification based on phthalates used in the menstrual pads. It involves, it is the first study among others, and our goal is to cover all aspects associated with the menstrual phthalates in the menstrual pads and classify the phthalates according to their risk classification. Why the goal of the reason is phthalates not only have a direct impact on human health, but also in soil, water, and the air, as a result affecting the flora and fauna. So we consider them as an environmental risk, and it's also confirmed by other studies. Therefore, our goal is to focus on the phthalates. And based on our initial study, we believe that phthalates in menstrual pads are also an important environmental risk hazard. Therefore, we want to classify first the risk of phthalates and also assess their existence in the menstrual pads. The benefits of our proposed model: we integrated different opinions from different experts in different countries in order to assess the risks based on the existence, based on their effects on soil, air, and water. We use fuzzy group consensus approach. As a result, the approach added weights for independent similar opinions for consensus, and as a result, it reduced the impact of outliers if there exist. The model we propose used limited resources in an efficient manner. Therefore, we use the expert opinions to assess their risk. The proposed model involves three phases. In the first phase, we gathered some data using the literature review and fuzzy group consensus for criteria assessment. In the second method, based on this information, based on the assessment, we use AHP method, analytic hierarchy process method, for the weight calculations based on the risk, impact, and probability. And in the third phase, sorry, this is my mistake, we use classification and clustering using the fuzzy C-means approach to classify the risk based on three classes: A, B, C. A represents the highest risk, C represents the lowest risk, and B represents the risk in between these two extreme cases. In the first phase, we have chosen 7 experts, mainly working in the mainly environmental engineers or experience in the environmental hazards of phthalates. There are 10 phthalates that is given here from 1 to 10. Their ranking is not given here yet, so they are just given. In the right, as you can see, we work with 7 experts, and based on the feedback we received, out of 1 to 5, we consider the phthalates risk in air, water, and soil effect accordingly, as given here. Based on this ranking, we have seen, for example, that the bisphthalate, the EHP, has the air risk of 4.20 out of 5, and in the water it's 4.99 and 4.33. We did it for 10 phthalates accordingly. Then we use an analytic hierarchy process to assess the impact and probability ratings of each air, water, and soil. As can be seen here, in the air, the probability of phthalate existence is more important compared to impact, whereas for water, impact is slightly more important compared to probability, and soil is more or less the same. This information is received from the, again, experts. And by using this information, we use fuzzy C-means clustering in order to assess their risk. The graph shown here represents 10 phthalates. A bigger version is given here. As can be seen here, the risks are categorized based on a 3-dimensional space. As can be seen here, the bis2 ethyl phthalate DEHP has the highest soil and also the water and air accordingly. By using this information, we use fuzzy C-means clustering, and it's a method used mainly for clustering is a artificial intelligence method, unsupervised learning method. Therefore, when we classify all these items according to the classification, we saw that the first, fourth, and 10th phthalates are classified based on the A class that represents the most important and the ones that possess the most risk for water, air, and soil respectively. Whereas the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th represents the B class. They are lower than the A class, but still possess risk higher compared to the C class. And the 2nd, 3rd, and 5th, D, E, P, D, B, P, and D, I, and P phthalates shows the lowest risk according to expert opinions. Therefore, we consider that the first, fourth, and 10th phthalates shown here represents a high risk. In conclusion, our goal was to implement the known methodology for phthalate risk assessment. The study implemented mainly two methods. The first one, fuzzy group consensus, proposed by 1997 by Hussein Chen, and fuzzy Siemens, proposed by 1984. Although it doesn't seem a novel method, they are widely used and they receive many citations in the literature. Therefore, they are easy to apply and we possess good results. The main goals is the use of fuzzy group consensus to reduce the weight of outliers. So if there were some extreme cases, extreme assessments, their importance are reduced accordingly. Therefore, the outliers' importance is reduced. This is better than taking just the mean average values. And based on the results, the proposed method is found to be efficient by the experts. As we said, there are some future studies involved with this approach. We can use different clustering methods called, some of them are k-means or self-organizing maps. Also, we believe that the number of experts can be increased to increase the reliability of our feedbacks. And we also, as we discussed, this is the first study among others. We need more information in terms of the phthalate levels in menstrual pads. Therefore, we are going to combine them with the information we reduce based on the importance of phthalates and their risk classifications. Therefore, we are going to focus on the taking necessary actions to reduce the risk. So these are some important references as I discussed. That's all. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for your presentation. Do you have any question or suggestion for this study? Okay, then thank you again. We could start to listen to the third presentation of the circular economy as a means to create the ecological society. Mr. Kaplan, if you are ready, you can start to present. You have 15 minutes again.
Good morning, my dear colleagues. First of all, I'd like to thank the conference committee and all the staff. Thanks to this conference, we had a chance to disseminate our ideas. Unlike my previous colleagues, I look at our common problem from a social science perspective. Actually, more or less everybody here try to understand this climate change, or we try to produce some new things, innovation, technical advancement. And actually, I talk about a new concepts and my study from a social science perspective present more a holistic way of understanding this climate issue. And I focus on circular economy as a means to create the ecological society. By the way, I study at Erzurum Technical University in the Department of Economics. If you look at human history, we see two important developments. One happened 10,000 BC, and another happened in 19th century. And the first one called agricultural revolution, and another called industrial revolution. And we can conceptualize this period as a new paradigms. Simply, a paradigm means a broader structure which shape our way of thinking, our behavioral patterns, even our aesthetic understanding. A paradigm shapes everything. So something happened after the Industrial Revolution, and we started to clash with the planet where we live. To understand this, we first look at the pre-industrial era. We call it agrarian society. As I said, it started around 10,000 BC, and humankind start to settle down. They start to make agriculture, but somehow in this era, agrarian society, despite humankind's intention to dominate the earth, they adapt themselves, their surrounding ecosystem, and they only produced for their basic needs. In this era, agriculture has become the main livelihood. And despite this settlement, settlements are mainly rural. They are not today's urban or cities. And after 10,000 BC till Industrial Revolution, humankind lived in a static way. But Industrial Revolution started to swiftly and drastically change this static lifestyle. Why? When humankind learned how to use machine power, immediately try to dominate and exploit the earth. After this point, production convert in a commercial way. This means mass production and mass consumption enter our way of life. And after this, industry became the main livelihood. And ironically, nations who achieved industrialization also colonized the rest of the world and forced all people to enter this new phase. But after this, our way of life was dynamic. It open to change. This mass consumption-based lifestyle continued. And when we came to 1970s, scientists realized something bad happening, so-called climate crisis. Why? Because limited source of earth could no longer afford the industrial society's unlimited ones. And here I want to share two books. They are really important. Rachel Carson's Silent Spring and Lester Brown's Building a Sustainable Society. And Rachel Carson's Silent Spring might be considered as a starting point for environmentalist activism in the world. Despite this, despite the realization of the climate crisis in the 70s, UN today still argues that if we maintain our current lifestyle, by 2050, we need 3 planets. Actually, this is a horrible news. So we need to change something, but climate crisis is an outcome of our current existing system, industrial system, or industrial society. So if we deal with this crisis, we need to change our this system. We need a systemic change. So-called, we need another paradigm shift. We need a paradigm shift from industrial society to ecological society. Here, ecological society has some important characteristics. Within ecological society, people, humankind, should live harmoniously with nature. And within the new paradigm, we need new way of thinking and behavioral patterns which are appropriate to the nature. For example, now modern humankind rationally behaves, and at the center of this rationality, actually, there is financial capital. First of all, we need to change this. We need to put natural capital at the center of any activity, but not financial capital anymore. So we need new reconceptualizations. For example, we need to change our waste understanding. Actually, there is not any waste in the world. Everything is resource. So this ecological society should change this old-fashioned industrial understanding, first of all, in our mind. Yes, we are discussing this since 1970s. We discuss, but how to change, how to achieve an ecological society is still not clear. Here, we need to look for other helpful concepts or solutions. And here I argue that circular economy actually start to emerge or getting attention of people as a concrete and applicable method to transform our society towards an ecological one. After realizing of the environmental crisis in 70s, countries immediately took top-down prohibitive measures against climate crisis. But these measures, these environmental measures, were at the expense of economy. So environmental policies were alienated market actors, and we need these market actors, firms, simply, to achieve this transformation. So today we can accept that without getting support of firms or market actors, we cannot achieve our environmental goals. Here, circular economy emerged as a midway which combine our economic interest and environmental interest. How? I can talk about three characteristics of circular economy. The first one, circular economy wants to achieve a situational change from zero-sum to win-win situation between economy and environment. In other words, circular economy advises us, humankind, both can protect the environment and maintain its environmental gains. And here, again, circular economy offers an understandable functional solution. And simply, circular economy argues that prevention of resource leakage from the economic system as much as possible will be enough for us. If we focus on this functional point, we can achieve both environmental well-being and economic prosperity. But another important point, circular economy does not claim a radical revolutionary change, but suggests an adaptive gradual change. Here, as I said, for ecological society, as a new paradigm, we need to put natural capital at the center of our all actions, actually. And circular economy can do this. How? As I said, circular economy mainly focus on prevention of resource leakage from economic system. Yes, it is a rational action. Yes, and this action actually still can be natural capital oriented. So, as I said, circular economy as an economical method might help us transform our society from industrial format to an ecological way. Here you see a diagram, and some people confuse circular economy with recycling or reuse. Actually not. Circular economy has a holistic perspective, and it considers all activities within an economic system, and simply argue that if we reconsider our design, our manufacture, and also our consumption to prevent resource leakage from this circulation, we can minimize our waste, and also we can exploit less natural resources. So this system already automatically becomes more sustainable. And here I point out an important characteristic, and gradual change. Why we need a gradual change? Yes, now environmental crisis is getting worse day by day, but we need to accept the reality that social structures, even humankind, even as a person, me, we like change gradually. We don't like radical change. Why? Radical change means uncertainty. Radical change means unexpected alternative cost. So in the world, any country, any firms, any multinational corporations, all these actors don't like radical change. Yes, we need to take measures against environmental crisis, and it is getting worse day by day, but our current structure doesn't let us to do radical change. In this sense, this circular economy, idea of circular economy provides this linear, gradual change to humankind. And also, circular economy has three principles. Recycle, more or less, it is easier for us to understand, comprehend what does it mean. Reuse and reduce. But still, we don't know how to achieve reuse or how to achieve reduce in our economic activities. So still, humankind and all other social institutions, social structure in the world needs time to comprehend these abstract principles. Moreover, we need experiments. We need experiments to see how to properly implement these principles, because otherwise there are dangerous side effects. For example, EU suffers from recycling problem these days. Accumulated huge mass recycled resource they have, and they don't know how to deal with this. They are exporting. Now, EU export garbage to rest of the world. But we know this is not sustainable. Also, EU experienced that if people recycle more, they will have a tendency to consume more. So we need experiments, and we need to reinstitutionalize these concepts in a proper way. So we need times. So this gradual change means minor developments, and accumulation of these minor developments gradually drive us towards an ecological society. Here, I like to share four important developments which show how market actors react to climate crisis and how they try to change themselves. The first one is here, CNN Business. In 2019, there happened an important thing in the United States. In this, it was the first time renewable energy capacity exceeds the coal. This means renewable energy lobby start to become more powerful in the US. So we can expect that they will influence policy making process, and more environmental friendly policies will be taken in the United States and diffuse the rest of the world. Also, there are some startup companies, and they are really smart, and they are producing really helpful projects. For example, in Bristol, a company use sewage system as a source for transportation, as an energy source for transportation, and it is extending. And also we have billions of environment, right? These fossil oil companies like Shell or British Petroleum, but they also start to change their stance against the renewable energy, and they start to invest in renewable energy. More or less, they will start or trigger a change in their sector from fossil resources to renewable resources. And I think they are good progresses, but still we need time, because these minor developments, accumulation of minor developments will take time. So if the transformation from the industrial society to ecological society will take time, we should ask if Earth will survive until that time. This is another important point we should focus, I think, because one of the key words of this conference is resilience, but we don't know actually what resilience means. We ask if Earth survive until that time when we learn to adapt the world, or if resilience means these minor developments. I think at that point, we still need more discussions to provide maybe or accelerated this gradual process. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Do you have any questions about the circular economy? Okay, if you don't have any question, we can move on to listen to the final presentation of this session. A qualitative research for exploring the barriers to house waste separation and recycling behavior of Turkish consumers. Mrs. Köksal, if you are ready, you can start to present. You have 15 minutes too.
Good morning to everybody. My name is Yansu Gökmen Köksal, and thank you for Professor, and thank you for the organizing committee for giving us the opportunity to make our presentation too. This research is a part of the project supported by the Scientific and Technological Research Council of Turkey within 1001 supporting scientific and technological research projects. And I divided my presentation into 4 main parts. First of all, I will give introduction with some statistics and literature review. And secondly, I will explain the methodology section. We'll refer the sample design, method, and analysis. And thirdly, I will summarize key research findings. And finally, I will present the discussion section and make feature suggestions for our research. And with national plans for protecting the environment in our country, it is strongly emphasized to increase society's awareness and knowledge level regarding the necessity of individual recycling. However, despite the ongoing efforts, individual recycling rates remain low. Hence, it's essential to comprehend why even consumers with sufficient knowledge and positive attitudes don't take the initiative to recycle or increase their frequency of recycling. Although many studies on barriers to individual recycling exist in the international literature, studies specific to Turkey are scarce. For this reason, this research focuses on discovering the factors that hinder Turkish consumers' engagement in house waste separation and recycling. It's frequently stated that recycling targets cannot be achieved without the efforts of consumers. And in addition, government incentives and investments are also important for the continuity of recycling too. However, the continuity of recycling will not be possible only with the incentives and investments of the state or sectoral practices. And in our country, most important problem in municipal waste management is that a separation culture is not established at a source that will allow the waste to be processed effectively. And also, it's seen that the participation cannot be achieved in many developing countries too, like Turkey. And also, separation rates are insufficient, too low. So we know that certainly it's important to increase the awareness of individuals about recycling and even to organize such activities for this purpose. And to create positive attitudes and effects is important too. And also encouraging recycling efforts with opportunities and incentives are important too. However, in order to ensure behavior change beyond the factors that motivate behavior, it is also very important to identify the barriers that prevent individuals from displaying behavior. And these barriers are the reasons why the target audience doesn't want to exhibit a recommended behavior, cannot exhibit it even if they want to, and thinks that they will not exhibit it. Although there is no clear statistics on the sources of municipal waste in our country, it is estimated that 28.1 million tons of 32 million tons of municipal waste in 2018 is domestic waste. For this reason, residents, which are the largest producers of household waste, were chosen in this study. And also, we focus on the recycling of papers, glass, metal and plastic packaging waste in our study. So you can see our research questions on this slide. Our main goal to identify barriers that make it difficult for Turkish consumers to recycle at home. Which barriers were reported more than others? How can these barriers be curbed? Which barriers groups are more prominent? And how do barriers differ according to consumers' recycling behavior, gender, type of house they live in? Sorry. This study utilized qualitative research methods based on qualitative data, and semi-structured in-depth interviews were conducted with 45 consumers. And all interviews were conducted via computer and telephone interviews via Zoom. And they then converted into text. And it was analyzed using thematic analysis through the Atlas C program. And all these qualitative data results presented in percentages and frequencies. And the unrecycled waste amount per capita calculated using Turkish Statistical Institute 2018 municipal waste statistics was used as the main criterion when determining the states where the research will be conducted. And this ratio was found by subtracting the amount of recycled waste per capita from the amount of waste per capita. And the cities included in the list, you can see, starting from the Adana, with the lowest amount of non-recycled waste per capita, to Çanakkale, with the highest amount of non-recycled waste per capita included. And totally, we include 16 provinces in our study, and participants were selected by convenience sampling from citizens residing in these 16 provinces. A total of 45 participants took part in the study, and 69% of the participants are women, 31% of the participants are male, And about 50% of the participants were born between the ages of 26 and 41, and 29% were between the ages of 42 and 57. And 71% of the participants work in various positions in the public and private sectors. And 29% of participants consist of people who don't work in any job. And 58% of participants are recyclers. And 38% of the participants are non-recyclers. And 4% of these participants are quitters. And 26 of these participants stated that they actively sorted waste at home, while 17 people stated they didn't actively sort waste at home before or at the moment. And on the other hand, 2 people stated they had sorted waste before, but then stopped sorting. When we look at types of housing, 23 of the participants live in apartments, 15 of them live in sites, and 7 of them live in detached houses. When we look at the individual's recycling behavior according to house types, it's seen that 54% of the recyclers live in apartments, 38% live in site, and 8% of the recyclers live in detached house. When we look at the most reported barriers in this study, a total of 83 highly detailed first-order barriers were identified. For the limitation of time, I just want to present most repeated barriers in our presentation. And you can see from the list the fact that the recycling points are far from home and there is not enough recycling points was the most frequently mentioned barrier, which was repeatedly 37 times. And then the difficulty of recycling, high effort required for the recycling. Items were repeated 26 times. And the results also indicate that laziness, negative social pressure, incentive of daily work, difficulty of transporting, recycling, natural problems, and lack of knowledge are among the frequently repeated obstacles in our study. And according to results of the thematic analysis, we divided the barriers into the 4 categories. These are social barriers, individual barriers, system-related barriers, and cost of behavior barriers. In the individual barriers, consist of barriers such as there is compensation, lack of habit, limited personal capability, prioritizing other issues, ineffectiveness, lack of knowledge, at-home storage problems, negative experience, somebody already did it, uninterest in recycling, and lack of personal capability. And the most prominent obstacles are sorry. I can't see. Okay. Most prominent obstacles are females' lack of knowledge about recycling. And in terms of individuals' recycling behavior, it's seen that this obstacle, lack of knowledge, stands out for those who recycle and not. And the most frequently repeated obstacle, another obstacle, is at-home storage problems. According to the types of houses, it has been seen that this obstacle is put forward more by the residents of detached house and site residents, who are taught to have more and more of their own space. And it's also understand that the negative past experience of especially women about recycling are the third most frequently repeated barrier. And then another obstacle frequently repeated is the limitation of individual capacity, which is related to laziness of individual. Let's check some quotations from our participants. For example, for the lack of knowledge item barrier, I don't know the benefits, I don't know the negative consequences of not doing it. Can be cited example of quotations from our participants. And for the storage problems at home, I don't have room for storage at home, I don't even have a balcony at home, waste looks messy, can be said as an example. And for the negative past experiences of our participants, for quotations, witnessing inappropriate use of recycling points and lose one's enthusiasm can be said as examples of quotations for our participants. And another barrier is system-related barriers, and these barriers include consist of distrust of the recycling system problems, lack of incentives, infrastructure problems, and government has no regulation. And the most repeated barriers is the infrastructure problems. And it's also noteworthy that infrastructure problems are frequently expressed as obstacles by those who don't recycle, but also by individuals who recycle. And another repeated barrier in our study is recycling system problem. When we checked these barriers quotation for the infrastructure problems, our participants said like these sentences: recycling points are far from home, there is no enough recycling points. And then for the recycling system problems, mixing of waste during collection and not offering activities that facilitate individuals' recycling activities can be give an example of the quotations from our participants. And another barrier is the cost of behavior. And cost of behavior consists of cognitive cost, economic cost, physical cost, and time cost. When the perceived cost barriers of behavior were evaluated, it was seen that the most repeated barrier is the physical cost barriers. And when we check the quotation of our participants, that they thought that recycling is challenging, difficult, and tiring to transport waste to the recycling points. Another barrier is social barriers. Social barriers consist of negative social norms, lack of support in this family, and lack of social support. And the most common barrier among social barriers is negative social norms. It's related about some criticism about other people for participating to recycling activities. And also it's understood that especially female participants give place to obstacles for more frequently due to the negative opinions about the people who recycle in the society. And barriers related to lack of information and the ineffectiveness due to factors such as distance of recycling bins, the time-consuming and troublesome nature of recycling, and the lack of space at home to collect recyclable waste were frequently reported in our study. And the barriers discovered in the current research are mainly consistent with the international literature. More importantly, some barriers specific to Turkey have been identified too. Turkish consumers' negative past experience due to inconsistency in the recycling system or their negative observations about the waste collection process appeared as a barrier that negatively impacted attitudes about recycling, hindered motivation, or even made consumers quit recycling. And also another barrier that reduced the sense of responsibility or individual norms for recycling was the belief that wastes thrown into the trash were already sorted and recycled by municipalities or unofficial collectors. And finally, identifying barriers to recycling behavior based on the research results. It provides important clues about what steps can be taken to make behavior change. For this reason, it's hoped that the research findings will help to increase the effectiveness of the strategies used by policymakers or environmental non-governmental organizations to promote recycling, to promote individual recycling in Turkey. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Do you have any question regarding the last presentation? Okay, then thank you very much to all for sharing your knowledge and listening all the presentations. Also, you can watch this session on YouTube from the link that I sent you in the chat section right now. Thank you again. I wish everyone a good day and see you soon.